Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So I've received many wonderful messages from all of you. Thank you so much for that. But what I've seen that was common is that devotees are asking for what practical things can we do to develop the consciousness of Dhira. So I thought today we'll dedicate that session to that point without changing what you're currently doing. Because what you're currently doing is what you can manage right now in your life. So I don't want to add any more changes to that. But what we're going to assess is the consciousness. What can we do from where we are and what we're doing in life right now, what we're managing spiritually right now? What can we do to improve the quality of what we're doing? We'll carry on with exactly what we're doing every day to connect to the spiritual platform. We're going to try to look at small things that is going to help us improve our quality step by step. So we're trying to assess the Dhira consciousness and we're trying to see how does he act. And if you remember from the past verses that we were doing, this is the Bhajana Kriya, the activity. Kriya means activity. So the activity that he does to attune, to align his consciousness to the spiritual platform. So that can be many things. So what we've seen in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, Rupa Goswami has given this as 64 different things one can do. Now that's a lot. So from where we are, can we refine that further? Yes. He's brought it down to 5 most powerful pillars of devotional alignment. And these 5 things, if we tune into it every day as proper consciousness, as devotional consciousness, this can totally transform our lives. So don't be fearful. We're not doing anything different than what you're doing right now, but we want to see how can we get the best of what we're doing right now. So how can we get quality of what we're doing right now? So that's our starting point. So we've assessed how from the senses knowledge comes to the mind and how to appease the mind. We've learned that the mind has intelligence controlling it. If the intelligence is also bewildered, then what helps? Then we've described prescribed duties is where we're addressing this point of Bhajana Kriya or the activities that is done to align the mind to the spiritual platform. And we were discussing that what helps us when we don't feel like doing our activities. Then we said we needed purpose. So although we have duty, we need purpose to make it resolute. That's why Krishna also says in Gita, resolute in purpose. So we need purpose. So what helps tune purpose? So Prabhupada has told us at the end of the 14th verse that purpose is attuned by devotion. That when one has devotion alignment to the spiritual platform, then one's purpose becomes resolute. And we were discussing that this was Nishta, the platform of steadiness, how to be steady in our practice. And that also has a platform on which it is built. And that is our relationship with the Supreme Lord, which is in engagement. And that interaction between the Supreme Lord and the soul creates a mellow. And mellow is the sweet exchange between the Lord and his devotee. So this is the progression that we've built up. Now let's assess it and see how do we make this practical to our daily life. So we know by the nature of the mind likes comfort. And as soon as it's comfortable, it doesn't like change. It doesn't like to change when it is comfortable. But we see Krishna is saying that this comfort is coming from happiness, and happiness is also a cause of distress. So assessing that if we want to grow, we need a little bit of challenge. We need something, because where's the adventure in life after that? Because we see even in comfort we get bored. And if there's boredom in life, then there's no excitement. If there's no excitement, so that excitement is the challenge we give ourselves. And what that does is very phenomenal. Gradually, we start building more and more positivity. As we assess life and what we are doing, then every step of the way we are building positivity and we're reinforcing that positivity within the mind. So once the mind is pacified that you're not going to give it any more to do and any more strenuous focusing and remembering, then it becomes pacified. So what we're doing in our efforts, it's not changing anything that you're doing right now, but we are trying to focus on the Dhira consciousness. We're trying to improve the quality, but we're gradually looking at ourselves and saying, how can I improve the quality of what I'm doing? So quality is based on consciousness, not on effort. So when we look at the consciousness now, how can I get the most of what I'm doing? Because we're doing quite a lot. We're doing quite a bit. So we're trying to refine it in terms of quality. And how can I get the best of what I'm doing right now? So we start at this very fundamental point of human experience, that we all are looking for fulfillment and satisfaction. And where do we find it here in the material world? We tried it in all different forms of relationship, but it doesn't seem to give us fulfillment and satisfaction. So when we address the spiritual platform, we are assessing the Lord's interaction, Krishna's interaction with his devotees, and we're seeing that here it is. This is the exchange of fulfillment. That these people, they don't have much, but they're feeling content in life. They're feeling happy. This is one of the things George Harrison said. He looked at the devotees and he says, wow, they don't have anything, but they're so content. They're so happy. I have all the money in the world. I can't find a drop of what they got. So what is that relationship that has been developed? The exchange of that is fulfillment and satisfaction. So I finally assessed by logic that this relationship between the spiritual platform and the material platform, the connection of that is fulfillment, is satisfaction. Now I want to understand, how do I bring that into my life? Because I can't change the events of the outside world, the coronavirus, people that are dying, that my loved ones, people that I know that have passed away recently. I can't change those events because those events are not in my hand. But how do I maintain Dhira? How do I develop that composure, that tolerance, that equilibrium, equipoised, even despite all these difficulties that are happening around me? I can only do that if I'm feeling fulfilled and satisfied at heart. So therefore this quest is taking us in that direction. How do I harness that consciousness, that feeling of being fulfilled and satisfied with what I have right now? And that is a beautiful art of life, which we're going to share today. So these 5 powerful pillars of devotional strength, when combined together as daily activity in life, give tremendous fulfillment. You must remember the previous teachers, the previous acharyas have summarized these 5 from 64 different things one can do for fulfillment. So they've brought it down to the essential, most powerful 5. And why they've chosen these 5 is because these 5 easily integrate into our daily lives in the modern world. They easily fit in. We just got to be conscious of how to fit them in. And once we become aware of them, then they connect us powerfully to the spiritual platform, having the experience of satisfaction and fulfillment. So they are very, very essential and practical to everyday life. So what are these 5 pillars? So the first one is prayer and hopefulness. Prayer and hopefulness. So within every human being, the tendency is there, the propensity to feel hopeful, that events will change, situations will change. And this is integral to being human. So the first and powerful pillar is prayer and hopefulness. Now you know there's many different prayers that can be done. So we're going to assess from the Vedic literature what it can advise us is the best prayer that can be done, and how do we do that as Dhira, which means in a conscientious way. So this creates a physical connection between the tongue and sound and the mind through prayer. The combination of using sound, the tongue and the mind to reinforce the connection to the spiritual realm. So why are we using the tongue? Because we've learned that out of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious. Sarira avidya jal jodindriya taikal jiva file vishaya sagare. That this jiva, this tongue, is most voracious. So in order to pacify the mind, we need something that's going to engage the tongue. And when the tongue is engaged, connected to the mind, then one can harness that spiritual platform very easily. So this is the first pillar of nourishment. The second pillar is a social pillar, and that is of association with like-minded spiritual people. So we all have a social need. We are gregarious, right? Socrates mentioned that. We are gregarious by nature. So we all have a need to associate and be social. And because this pillar is so powerful and impressionable on us, having that need is one thing. Being responsible about who we associate with is more important. So how do we refine that? We need to seek out spiritually minded people. People who connect and resonate with us and the way we are practicing and thinking. Because in the community of devotees, there's a lot of people, and each one has their different value system, which is most important to them. They have different needs, different requirements, and according to all of that, they'll have different levels of practice. So we got to see, where is it that we can fit in? We need to find those people that resonate with us, that think like us, that share like us, but they are also more serious about the practice. So their impressions from their practice helps us to also become better, to challenge ourselves, to say, I also want to become like them. Then the third pillar of nourishment is our sacred space. We need an area, whether it's at home or right now we can't go to a sacred place like a temple or a church or a mosque. We can't go directly there, but we need a sacred area where we can go and connect and realign ourselves with the energy of that place. So the sacred area is always tuned into the spiritual paradigm, but because we interact with matter and people and all different things, our consciousness becomes influenced by that. So how do we bring it back to the spiritual level? We go and find our sacred space. Without all the accumulations that we've acquired connected to the body, here in this place we can just be the spirit soul. Connect to that, feel that, and resonate with that. So the next pillar of nourishment is for the mind, philosophy. So we need to hear something from the revealed scriptures. And by hearing that, then we satisfy the human need for philosophy and understanding. And the fifth pillar of nourishment is our sacred altar. If we can create a spiritual vortex at home by which whenever we go there, we can interact directly with the spiritual realm, it instantly tunes us back to the spiritual platform. So these 5 things we'll go over gradually, and we'll try to consolidate them into an everyday practice in life. And if we can do that, these 5 things seem to be the most powerful to align, to attune ourselves back to the spiritual platform. So having mentioned these 5 pillars of devotional strength and nourishment, we also have to address the following points before we get to the practice. If these points are not appreciated deeply, then we see, although we know that these practices are powerful and strong, they won't have meaning to us. Why? Because we're not convinced of what they are. So that's why now let's address what could be the possible challenges that we could face as we're developing this Dhira consciousness. So the first one, it must be practical in modern life. It must be coherent. That for us to see it as valuable, we must first see it as practical to my current life. That if I'm seeing that I'm going to get value from this, can I practically apply this to my life? And that's very important. First and foremost is the practical application, because if it's not coherent, with the way I live life as a lifestyle, then it's not going to have meaning to you. It has value, but it doesn't have value to you right now. So you have to first assess coherence, that it must be practical to my lifestyle. Then the mind is going to accept it a little easier. So for the mind to accept it, I must have a why reason. I must have a reason why. It must be relevant to me that I'm going to do these practices, but am I doing it just because of tradition, because of culture? Or do I have a justified reason to myself and to my mind why I'm doing this? Am I finding value in it for myself? Because once I have that, then it's a strong conviction to address the mind on those days when we don't feel like doing it, or when the mind is trying to put us off doing the practice. So we need to assess this as well. Number 3, it must be logical in order to install confidence. It must be logical to me. Can I understand it? And the beautiful thing about Krishna consciousness, that all our practices, the prescribed duties, are scientifically based. So once I can see the science behind it, then I can see, wow, it's very logical, it's practical to life. And it's only now that I'm becoming aware of it. So it must be logical to me. It must be something that satisfies my logic. And this is another component of the mind. When the mind is logically convinced, it will practice it. The 4th point, I must observe daily results. So daily, I must be able to set myself a routine where I'm daily seeing results. Devotees, many a time when we look at the concept of humility, then we think, no, we shouldn't praise ourselves, we shouldn't acknowledge ourselves because this is false ego. This is not the fact. Remember, you are on a spiritual path. Every step that you advance on this path is glorification to the practice, is glorification to the teacher, and is glorification to the Lord, that is given a teaching that can redeem one, that can change one from where they are right up to the spiritual platform. It's His glorification. So when you acknowledge yourself on a daily basis, nobody else is going to do it, right? Nobody else is going to give you a pat on the back and say, hey, well done. No, very few will do that. So if you don't acknowledge yourself, the mind starts to feel that this is worthless. Why? Because you're not seeing any tangible results. You're just wasting time. It's going to start seeing it as worthless. But we're going to show that gradually, if you assess what you've achieved for the day, and it's a lot, if you make that assessment, then you have positive foundation to start the morning. You have a positive foundation to start the day. So this self-acknowledgement and development on the path every day is very, very important to pacify the mind. The next point, number 5, I must acknowledge my achievements as an offering. So we know this is directly coming from Gita. Krishna is saying in 9.27, Yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat jahosi dadasi yat tat tapasyatu kaunteya, yat kurusva mat arpanam. He says, do this as worship to me. So yat karo means to do. Whatever you're doing, do this as worship to me. So you have something to offer the Lord. You know, if you stay in the temple, right? If you stay in the temple, every morning they offer the book scores and they offer different things, donations and things like that. That was given for the Lord's appreciation. So this is like our own book score. This is our own calculation of what I was yesterday and what I am today. Even if I've taken one tiny step, Yad karosi, I've done it for Krishna. Yad kurusva matarpanam, I've done it for the appreciation of the Lord. So do you see, devotees, what this is doing? This is not fanning the ego, but is acknowledging who is giving me the inspiration to do this. Who is giving me the guidance to do this? It's coming from the spiritual platform. It's coming from Krishna through the spiritual master. Therefore, I acknowledge these blessings. So when you see it in that way, acknowledging where you was yesterday and where you are today is very important to see how you are growing. And the next point, number 6, a change in life to a lifestyle change. So gradually, as we are assessing the consciousness of the Dhira, we are gradually moving from a change in life, that means one or two things, to a lifestyle change. Gradually, not physically, but by consciousness. But by consciousness, our consciousness, the quality of what we're doing. Remember, we're not changing anything that you're doing right now. Actually, you're doing quite a bit right now. But we're changing the consciousness to make it quality. We want to make it more quality, more better. Number 7, I start feeling fulfillment, which is true ego. Devotees, what's going to happen is, as you assessing yourself like this, you're going to start feeling good. You're going to really start feeling fulfilled and satisfied. Why? Because you are working on yourself in small increments that is manageable for you. It's not a stark reality that you have to give up this and change this and do that. No, no, no. We are addressing the quality. We are addressing what we're doing, but now we are trying to improve the consciousness. So as a result of that, you're going to start feeling fulfilled. You're going to start feeling satisfied. You're going to start feeling fulfilled. And this is the exchange that the spiritual dimension gives us. We're going to start feeling that energy more and more and more. And gradually, the effects of the material world is not going to knock us over as it used to in the past. The next point, number 8, make changes in bite-sized pieces, quality improvement. Make changes. What we're doing, we are making slight changes, but we're addressing quality. We're not changing anything that you're already doing. We're now addressing quality and doing it in bite-sized pieces. That is manageable. Then the mind doesn't freak out that this is oh, this is too much, I can't manage. No, no, no. We're not changing anything. We're doing what you do every day. But now we're addressing your consciousness, the Dhira consciousness, the consciousness of the spiritual platform. Number 9, build on love and gratitude. Devotees, we're going to show you scientifically also that these two qualities of love and gratitude is the most powerful thing to change the human being. The attitude of gratitude. If we start the day with gratitude, and why is that important? Because everything else is negative around us, because everything else is falling down and collapsing around us. If we start the day with that, where are we going to end up? But if we start the day with something positive, and gratitude always gives us something positive. So 10 things that I can find to be grateful for before I get out of bed. This can change your entire life, and we're going to see that. And number 10, expect spiritual intervention in other ways. So usually the ideal is that we're expecting Krishna to appear, we're expecting the spiritual master to give us, to say something that will immediately change our situation. This may happen, but not all the time. We got to learn to see like the Dhira. We got to learn to see, how is the Lord being merciful to me now? And if we look at it in maturity, we can see in so many ways He's been merciful right now. The fact that I'm breathing, some people are not. The man in ICU, in intensive care, he's suffering to breathe right now due to the coronavirus. I'm able to breathe. Thank you, Lord. I'm grateful for that. I may not have everything going my way right now. My loved ones right now who are with me, thank you, Lord. I'm grateful that they are okay. So for those who have passed on, at least I can ask them for their blessing so that I can manage my life. Thank you. Gratitude again. So when you look at all the basic things of human life, you'll see there's a lot of gratitude there. And if we start our life on that platform, it's a wonderful way to harness the spiritual energy.